Aloha mai kākou e nā hoa makamaka mai ka la hiki a ka la kau velina nui me ke aloha. Malo nui no ke a kōkua ana no kākou no ka pono o ka la hui, no ka pono o ka aina a me ka pono o ka wai no hoi. E he o lelo no i ao e kalele ana i ke ko'i o ka wai a me ka aina ke kahi. Ku mā lo'e la lau na lima i ka hoi nui a me ka hoi iki. Stand up straight, reach for the big and little paddles. Said to young people, be prepared to weather whatever comes your way. I just want to give a huge mahalo and aloha to those graduating in this season. There's been a number of graduations we see online, and I'm sure we have more than a few family members who have graduated this season. And it's a good reminder that the decisions we're making here are going to affect those who are up and coming. And so want to wish them the best and as we make our way in this journey. Aloha everyone and welcome to today's May 27th, 2025 public hearing and regular meeting of the Honolulu Board of Water Supply. Before beginning today's meeting, I'd like to state that our board is dedicated to providing safe, dependable, and affordable water now into the future. At this time, we'd like to share a brief recording with reminders on public participation as well as virtual meeting regulations for board members as required by law.
Materials for this meeting under HRS Section 92-7.5 are accessible at boardofwatersupply.com/board meetings. The public may attend this meeting in person at the BWS Public Service Building, located at 630 South Beretania Street. The public may also view a live stream of today's meeting on our website at boardofwatersupply.com/live. We have been accepting written or oral testimony for today's meeting. Instructions and an online submittal form are available at boardofwatersupply.com/testimony. The deadline to submit advanced written testimony has passed. Testimony received by noon today have been distributed to the board members. We will continue to accept written testimony today through our online form. Oral testimony in person or remotely will be accepted during today's meeting. To facilitate as much in-person and remote testimony as reasonably possible during the time allotted, pre-registration and submittal of a written version of testimony at boardofwatersupply.com/testimony is strongly encouraged. To testify in person, please register using our online form or come to the Public Service Building at 630 South Beretania Street. We have a representative in the lobby to provide intake and further instructions. To request to testify remotely, please complete the online form at boardofwatersupply.com/testimony. Requesters will receive an email containing links and instructions to join the Zoom session. Testifiers will have 2 minutes to state their position. A timekeeper will alert testifiers when there is 1 minute remaining. Once the 2 minutes are up, please summarize to allow time for questions from the board. Then, make room for the next testifier. Board members attending any board meeting remotely must be visible to the public to be considered present and meet quorum guidelines. Board members participating remotely must also disclose their location and anyone present at their location during roll call. Meeting participants who are calling or video conferencing in, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. If you have a question, comment, or wish to enter or second a motion on an action item, please unmute your microphone and identify yourself before continuing to speak. If you encounter technical issues during today's meeting, please use the Zoom chat to send a direct message to our support team. Their names are listed in the message to all participants. To open the chat window, please click on the text bubble icon on the Zoom toolbar.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a moment to take roll call of the board members. When I call your name, please say aye. And if attending remotely, make the appropriate disclosures. Again, joining us virtually, board member Brian Andaya.
Aye. I'm in a room by myself with the door closed.
Aloha, Brian. Thank you. Board member Gina Bano.
I'm in a room by myself with the door closed.
Thank you, Gene. Aloha. In the boardroom with me today, our board members, Vice Chair Jonathan Kaneshiro.
Aye.
Aloha. Board member Lance Wilhelm.
Yep.
Aloha. Excused for today's meeting are board members Kehalani Pu'u as well as member Edwin Sniffen. Also in the room with us today, Manager Ernie Lau.
Aloha.
Aloha. Deputy Manager Erwin Kawata.
Here.
Aloha. Board Secretary Joy Cruz, that's you?
Here.
Hi. Manager Secretary Kim Kwai. Aloha. And Information Specialist Wayne Maria. Jessica Wong from Corp Counsel is with us as well, and Jeff Lau is in another meeting, but he will be joining us shortly. Okay, so to start off today, we have a public hearing. The Honolulu Board of Water Supplies public hearing was published on Friday, May 16th in the Star Advertiser. The purpose of the public hearing is to allow the public the opportunity to testify on one item, the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 operating and capital improvement program budget for the Board of Water Supply. Chair recognizes Relin Nakabayashi and Patrick Chung. Aloha.
Thank you, Chair and members. Raylan Nakabashi, Head of the Executive Support Office, presenting both the fiscal year 26 operating and CIP budgets. These are the budgets presented in total numbers: 283.3 million operating, 283.3 capital improvement. So here are the budgets from fiscal years 22 through 26. Operating budgets are in the yellow bars. And those operating budgets have consistently grown due to increases in costs. The increase in fiscal year 26 is primarily due to increases in our materials, supplies, services, fixed charges, and the capital improvement program budget, which is driven by increased costs due to factors such as inflation, supply chain disruptions, and tariffs. Further in this presentation, I will cover increases in each major cost category. CIP budgets are represented on this slide in that navy or dark blue. These have also increased as we continually work to invest in repairing, replacing, and investing in our existing infrastructure, and as we contend with Red Hill. In fiscal year 26, we're working on executing and finishing our existing projects. So CIP has decreased slightly as compared to fiscal year 25, but Pat will discuss the CIP by cost category in detail later in this presentation. So the proposed operating budget is based on total operating fund resources of $415 million. Operating fund resources are made up of our beginning fund balance, plus any revenues anticipated to be earned, and any lapses or prior year adjustments. We've been working diligently to maintain safe and reliable service in the face of increased inflationary pressures and the Red Hill crisis. We're working on rebuilding our carryover balance to ensure that we have enough funds to execute our mission. And when we talk about carryover, it's simply the unbudgeted, unreserved cash remaining at the end of each fiscal year. It's that bottom line, the ending balance. Thankfully, with the board's support, we were able to adopt rate increases in November of 2023, which became effective in February of 2024. While these rate increases were much needed, as you may recall, to avoid rate shock, we deliberately limited the rate increases to no more than 10% in any fiscal year, understanding that this would mean a gradual rebuilding of that diminished fund balance. The increase to be implemented at the start of fiscal year 26 is 9.5%. And our fiscal year 26 budget reflects the increases in expenses we've all faced, and a strategic use of the operating fund at a time when borrowing is more expensive. The result being a projected fund balance or carryover into the future of $52.6 million. This slide illustrates our total resources versus our total expenditures, with resources being the column made up of the blue, green, and yellow. So blue is our revenues, green, which is the carryover fund balance that rolls from year to year, and orange, which represents the prior year adjustments or lapses. Expenditures for each year are shown in the purple column to the right. Fiscal years 23 and 24, this is the actual fund balance or the fund resources plus the actual expenditures. And we've been working, I don't know how noticeable it is in here, but we've been trying to work to rebuild that green section or that fund balance. But at this time when borrowing is more expensive, we do intend to continue putting that operating fund balance to work to ensure continued operations and investment into our water system. So on this slide, This is just a reminder of our board adopted financial policies and financial policies. And apologies, there's still a typo I didn't correct. This is for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024. So per our board adopted financial policies, we are to maintain debt service coverage at 1.6 times on total debt. At the close of fiscal year 24, we were at 3.98 times on senior debt coverage, 2.91 times debt service coverage on all of our debt. Another board financial policy is to maintain net working capital. And our target is 180 days of unencumbered working capital while never having less than 60 days. We closed fiscal year 24 with 201 days of working capital. This is our historical and projected debt coverage. So the debt service coverage ratio just measures simply the cash flow available to pay your current debt obligations. And it's a way that you can measure our ability to repay our loans and take on new financing. This ratio is devised by dividing net operating income by the debt service. Our indenture requirement, or what our commitment is to our bondholders, is for a debt service coverage of 1.2 times. But our planning target, as covered on the prior slide, is to have debt service coverage of at least 1.6 times. This is our historical bond ratings. BWS bond rating has been historically high, and we received AAA stable ratings in February of 2024. We did not go for another rating this year because we did not issue bonds in calendar year 2025. But the two raters, S&P did affirm our AAA bond rating January 30th of 2025, and Fitch reconfirmed our AAA bond rating with a review in December of 2024. So this is how the operating fund expenditures are broken up just in a visual presentation over the major cost categories. So the proposal is to spend $362.4 million in operating funds this coming fiscal year 26. It's made up of $98 million for materials, supplies, and services, $79.1 million of operating fund to be used for the capital improvement program, $75.4 million for fixed charges, $62.1 million for personnel services, $42.2 million for debt service, and $5.7 million for equipment. This slide presents the operating fund expenditures from fiscal years 22 through 26. And as we continue to grow our CIP, we'll continue the mix of financing between bonds or issuing bonds or debt instruments and the use of the operating fund to finance our capital improvement program. And as current interest rates to borrow are higher than in prior years, we made a conscious decision to utilize operating funds and alternative financing, such as the State Revolving Fund Loan Program or the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, or WIFIA programs, to continue necessary growth of the CIP while balancing these costs to our ratepayers. So if we focus in on just how does this year compare to last year, and if we remove the amount of operating funds used to pay for capital improvement program costs, this is how the operating budgets stack up against each other year over year. There's approximately 10.7 million more, 3.9% more budgeted in fiscal year 26 than was budgeted in fiscal year 25. And this is primarily due to that orange category, materials, supplies, and services, which saw a $9.7 million increase. And now we'll dig into kind of those details. So as far as our personnel costs, there is no net increase of full-time equivalent positions, or FTE, proposed by the department. Our headcount remains below the board authorized 741 FTEs. There's a decrease in salaries of 2.1 million or 3.3%, which is reflected essentially of a projected decrease in $3.5 million for temporary hazard pay related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this also represents our focus to fund positions that are actively being recruited. In fiscal year 25, we budgeted $7 million for temporary hazard pay. That number has been reduced to 3.5 million going forward into fiscal year 26. There was a decision on temporary hazard pay and arbitration decision on temporary hazard pay for the UPW employees in fiscal year 25. And we expect to, I guess, satisfy that agreement this current fiscal year, which just leaves the HGA employees to be taken care of in fiscal year 26. And we continue to evaluate our organizational and technological changes to increase and optimize our operational capacity. We've initiated changes in recruitment and advertisement of our vacant positions, and we leverage our memberships in professional organizations such as the AWWA and AMWA. And we've been working with consultants, marketing consultants, to develop more robust advertising plans for our positions. We're also continue our work with the Department of Human Resources to expedite the hiring of licensed engineers. And aligned with Mayor Blangiardi across the street, our goal is to fill as many positions as quickly as possible. As was reported to the board last month, I think when Michelle did her report, about 36.7% of our workforce will become eligible for retirement within the next 10 years. And we do understand the seriousness of that number compounded on our existing vacancies. To reach wider audiences with our recruitments, we continue to invest time and resources into reaching those candidates however we can. We continue to engage college students with internship opportunities and leverage all modes of media to promote these recruitments. We're constantly in pursuit of people who are searching for a fulfilling career, providing one of the most critical and essential needs in our community. Highlighted here are graphics from our summer watership program and the participant comments from last year. This program is specifically aims to engage college students by introducing them to the various career paths here at the Board of Water Supply. And in fiscal year 26, our budget also includes $1 million intended for succession planning to ensure institutional knowledge is passed on before staff leave. While inflation has increased our required spending in material supplies and services, the largest increase in this cost category is in professional and other contractual services. Some examples of the increases in this area: there's a source water protection initiative, and you can see that in the Office of the Manager and Chief Engineer. We've got our Red Hill Groundwater Study and Geotechnical Services. You can see that in my budget, or ESO. The lead service line inventory and water testing, that's in the Water Quality Division. Succession planning, as I mentioned on the prior slide, has increased the HR's budget by $1 million. There's also just other costs of doing business that you'll see in this category are arbitrage costs, which you'll see in fixed charges. Other costs of doing business, soils testing for all of our spoils piles. Those are new costs, and then just increases in IT services. As we move into the equipment category, our FY26 equipment budget is just reflective of our current plan to purchase and replace fleet vehicles according to their replacement schedule. And our debt service budget remains steady in fiscal year 26 as no new bonds were issued in calendar year 2025. We do expect to issue new bonds, though, in the first half of calendar year 2026. When it comes to the fixed charges category of our budget, there's a $3.6 million or 5% increase over the prior year. It's essentially related to employee benefit costs. So there's a $2.7 million increase in the cost we anticipate for the Employees Retirement System, or ERS, and a $1.2 million increase in our employee health benefits costs, or the EUTF costs. Moving into, so that's the expenditure side. So now moving into the revenue side, our total revenues are projected to increase by about $33.8 million, or 11.3%. Our largest revenue generator is our metered water revenue, and that's projected to increase by 9.5%, or $2.27 million. And that is primarily due to the rate increase that we will implement on July 1st, 2025. Our recycled water revenues also make up a significant amount of revenue as well, but they remain projected to remain stable based on the current usage and the higher rates. So here are the revenue projections broken out year over year. This is actual revenues from fiscal 24, budgeted revenues of fiscal year 25, and then our projected revenues of fiscal year 26. You'll see here, the other revenues so the big categories are the potable water, non-potable water, and recycled water. But there is other revenues category. And the largest driver of the other revenues category is our interest income, which we anticipate to be up by about $8 million in fiscal year 26. But that's going to be offset partially by a decrease in other revenues or other income in ocean cooling, which we intend to end by about September of 2025. Presented is a chart here showing the budgeted versus actual FY 23 and 24 revenues, and then our estimated revenues or budgeted revenues for FY 25 and 26. So as you can see here, our revenues are almost entirely generated from the metered sales of potable, non-potable, and recycled water. This is greatly affected by use and weather. And our forecasted FY 26 revenues are based on historical patterns of use and the rate increases that are coming in July. So I think when we had our budget workshop, board member Wilhelm asked about consumption. What do those numbers look like? So the consumption does vary from year to year. That's what we added this slide to just explain, or just to show. Again, the bulk of the revenue or consumption is from just metered, potable, non-potable. And then we've got the recycled and reverse osmosis or RO water in those other two colors. So it does, depending on the seasons, how hot and dry and how long the hot and dry seasons last, does drive consumption up. The other things is our strong conservation messaging over time, especially post Red Hill, the conservation messaging got really strong. So it is not stagnant and not flat, but over time it doesn't change too much.
That's in thousands of gallons. How I read that?
This is in, I'm so sorry. Yes, no, 41, no, million, that's how many gallons? 41,921.
And it's in thousands of gallons, so it'll be
41 billion.
45 billion
Billion.
gallons a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I should have put a legend.
Wow.
But I'm sorry, can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
But if you were to overlay the two charts, the consumption level is relatively stable.
Relatively stable.
The income line on an increase, which would
Minus.
suggest that it's mostly in rate, right? So the delta's in rate,
mostly
not consumption. Yeah.
even with all the growth through conservation, and other efforts,
Right.
trying to keep the demand for water kind of relatively flat as long as we can.
Right, and really those the sort of the central point of my question was how that increase is made up, whether it's made up in consumption or made up in rate, and that suggested it's at least in this juncture, it's mostly.
Mostly in rates.
Yeah.
Yep, most of the rate increases.
Our water system facilities charge is still the same as it was adopted in 1990s.
Yeah.
So, and that's the revenue coming in there pretty minimal right now, I think.
Yeah,
Mm.
it can vary. Leanne can correct me if I'm wrong, but we guesstimate about 8 million a year coming in that way, but not, and I'm sorry, it's not a part of like this revenue that we're talking about in the operating fund. That water systems facility charge is placed in a special fund outside. It's placed in a
Development.
special expendable fund because it has restrictions on what we can use that revenue for. It's solely for the purpose of expanding the system. So we don't use it to cover any operating costs.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. That was extra work, so thank you.
Oh, no, we're happy to, yes. Consumption, even when we did our rate study, we did not do the rate study going forward, assuming there'd be any kind of drastic changes in consumption, essentially the same. And so when we do our year-to-year projections on what we think the revenues are going to be, we look back at the historical and we kind of keep it the same. We don't forecast any huge drop-offs, or even when they say it's going to be an El Nino season or La Nina, we don't change the way that we do our revenue projections too much just based on the weather. Okay. So while our operating fund revenues are projected to increase by 11.3 million, our operating expenditures budget in fiscal year 26 are only expected to increase by 3.9%. Our fiscal year 26 budget, I will turn it over to Pat, but I just wanted to highlight before I do turn it over to Pat, it does reflect our continuing and growing need to invest in our infrastructure. But while that CIP is growing, we do remain conscious of the cost of this kind of infrastructure investment to our ratepayers. And we're making significant efforts to diversify our funding streams. I mentioned we pursue low interest loan financing. So our fiscal year 26 budget is reflective of us asking the state for $67.9 million in state revolving fund loans. And it's also reflective of $63 million in a low interest loan directly from the EPA under the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, or WIFIA. Those are all requests being made. And then the 26 budget is also reflective of a $19 million grant, which was awarded from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. About 25% of our CIP next year is funded through the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, which may and we hope will include some loan forgiveness, reducing the overall cost of these projects to our ratepayers. And grants as well help to provide projects at a lower cost to our ratepayers. Just for reference on what we say when we talking about low interest loans, all in bond interest for 2024, the last time we sold these bonds was 4.12%. The SRF rate that we were getting or hoping to get is between 2 and 3%. And you can also stretch out your repayment on the SRF and the WIFIA programs for longer terms, 30 or more years. The WIFIA rate will be determined once we lock that loan down and when we draw those funds, but it will always be, and the way these programs are set up, the rates with WIFIA and SRF will always be lower than the market rate.
So just a caveat there, board, I think you should be aware too, there's significant changes being proposed in the federal budget. The EPA's budget, I think, is about what's been proposed, and I don't think the actual full budget has been submitted yet. It's around maybe 55% less than was in prior years. So the impact might be to the SRF program that Ray was mentioning, that in the future, that program may not get the federal support that it is enjoying right now. We hope that Congress will continue to support the projects, the funding of the SRF program. It is something that is important to utilities across our country in all 50 states, including the red states, the purple states, the white blue states. So hopefully that will survive the congressional process. But so at some point in the future, if we need to kind of adapt to changing conditions, we'll come back to the board if necessary to look at amendments to our budget if it becomes necessary. But for now, we're going to continue to move forward to look for alternative sources of funding for our CIP projects that are not just coming from ratepayers.
Would your option end up being bond floating? I mean, if you can't get
The other option is float bonds, if we had to, and also, like we utilize more of our rate revenue to fund projects, also be probably more judicious in what projects we put forward right now. Those are all tools. We'll instructed our team here just so we'll continue to pursue federal funds, alternative supply sources of money on behalf of our ratepayers.
A couple of years ago, when we were talking about what the next rates for water might look like, Ray then came out with all these charts as to like what the bend of cost of energy as an example that was just trending higher and higher, and we weren't keeping up with that margin. And getting some of these CIP bids back that are like upwards of almost double what we expected them to be. That was the concern at the time, is like, how do we make sure we understand what the costs are associated with doing business? Now, I think it's like, to Ernie's point, the cost of capital increasing or being as variable as they're talking about it in the long term is really a consideration for us to look at how is it that we can frame, the keep up with aging infrastructure at 1% a year and the like. Is it like the two coming together at the same time are potentially problematic for how we keep water affordable and keep up with infrastructure.
I do want to express my appreciation to the board for back in 2023 adopting the next 5-year schedule of rate increases. Hopefully that, that will be able to get us through the next nearly 4 years of the current term.
So I'll hand it over to Pat now.
Thank you, Ray. Good afternoon, Chair Anthony and board members. I'm Patrick Chun, and I'm the Acting Program Administrator for Capital Projects Division. The Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, ensures that BWS will be able to achieve BWS's vision and mission: water for life, safe, dependable, and affordable water now and into the future. The program includes projects from various divisions with BWS, including Capital Projects Division. The CIP not only supports BWS's vision and mission, but it's also aligned with BWS's Water Master Plan, Strategic Plan, BWS's goal and objectives, and the 6-year Capital Improvements Program. The CIP carefully balances the needs of the system in providing safe, reliable water service and with cost-effective management of assets and funding. The CIP is comprised of 3 project categories: research and development, renewal and replacement, and capacity expansion. I will review some of the projects in each of the categories. This map shows the approximate location of where the new design and construction projects for FY26 are located. Red indicates design projects and blue indicates construction projects. For category 1, research and development, we have budgeted $28.5 million. On this slide, I have highlighted projects in this category. One of these projects involve construction of up to 5 monitoring wells to be used as sentinel wells, allowing BWS to detect the presence of an underground contaminant plume from Red Hill. The photo is of a typical monitoring well drilling rig. Category 2 is for renewal and replacement of various facilities and infrastructure with a budget of $103.4 million. Like the previous slide, I have not listed all projects, just some of the significant ones. I'll provide some information on 2 of these projects. We will bid out a construction project at Wilder Wells to replace the motor control center, including installation of a new electronic motor starters, known as soft starters, that reduces the strain on mechanical and electrical equipment, and also better controls pump operations. The project also includes control building interior and exterior lighting replacement of general use power receptacles, replacement of discharge control valves for all 4 pumps, modifications to the dump line drain box to eliminate an overflow situation, and various other improvements. $7 million is included in the budget for this project. On the design side, one of our projects will be for the relocation of Nu'uanu Booster Number 2. The scope involves replacing the existing Nu'uanu Booster Station Number 2 with a new booster station at a nearby site. The project will include 3 booster pumps with 12-inch suction and discharge mains, an emergency generator connection cabinet, and all mechanical and electrical equipment typical of a BWS booster station. $1 million is budgeted for this design work. The photo on the left is the existing Wilder Wells MCC to be replaced. The photo on the right is the existing Nu'uanu Booster Number 2 to be replaced by the new booster station, which will start in FY26. Category 3 is for capacity expansion, which has a budget of $92 million. I have listed a few of the more significant construction design projects that will be awarded in FY26. One of the construction projects involve a new GAC facility in a parcel recently acquired from Castle and Cook, adjacent to the Mililani Wells 2 property. The project includes 4 new GAC vessels, a backwash tank system, including pump and filter setup, a chlorination system, and associated piping. 10 million is budgeted for this project. From the P&E projects listed, we will be starting the design for the Red Hill Contamination Response Production Well at Newtown 550 Reservoir Site for 450,000. The photo is of a pair of GAC vessels that are typically found at our GAC facilities. These are from our Mililani Wells 3 site. Now I'm going to turn it back to Ray, who will continue with the FY26 budget summary.
So this is just the summary page in the budget books, kind of screen captured here. And I just wanted to highlight when we were talking about like fund diversification and all the things that we are trying to do to be cognizant of the cost to our ratepayers. The columns in the budget that are highlighted in yellow, those are the, I guess, diversified funding streams. So the State Revolving Fund, the Extramural Fund, which represents grants, and the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, or WIFIA, columns. But the source of the funds for that entire $283.3 million CIP is made up of our operating funds, or that's our rate revenues and cash that we use to finance some of our projects. The financing, which is the State Revolving Fund and the Improvement Fund and the WIFIA Fund. And then earlier, manager was talking about the special expendable fund, or he was talking about, sorry, the water systems facilities charges. Those that we collect go into the special expendable fund, and those are used exclusively for capacity expansion projects into the future. The other major change in our fiscal year 26 budgets, our fiscal 26 budget, and we'll go, the resolution will be presented in the regular budget meeting or the regular board meeting for today. But the budget resolution does include a paragraph, this highlighted or screen captured, be it further resolved paragraph, which would allow for funds appropriated other than in the operating fund within the capital improvement program budget to be valid for fiscal year 26 and the 12 months thereafter. Any part of the appropriation that is not expended or encumbered shall lapse on June 30th, 2027. So this is going to allow us to utilize non-operating CIP funds for 24 months, which will provide us flexibility and time to execute our projects. Our projects are taking longer to execute or award and complete due to increases in permitting and regulation. So in summary, this slide summarizes how the budget is being funded, the 283.3 million each side. Operating budget is exclusively funded with our rate revenue or cash in the operating fund. And our capital improvement program budget of 283.3 million is split across those 6 different funds for a total proposed budget, both operating and CIP for fiscal year 26 of 566 million. $639,988. And in closing today, we just want to let the board know that our fiscal year 26 budgets do remain focused on our vision of Kawaiʻola to ensure safe water. We will continue to comply with all drinking water regulations, which includes 2 new major rule changes for us, the PFAS rule and the lead and copper rules. And on top of our mandatory compliance, we're working to ensure the Red Hill crisis doesn't impact our customers through continued increased testing and the development of monitoring wells to characterize contamination within the aquifer. To ensure dependable water for our customers, we're going to continue with our water master plan update. This work will continue through fiscal year 26 and will help us to guide the implementation of high priority projects, especially in the face of all that is changing. And then finally, to ensure affordable, we will continue to our strong financial management practices and exercise fiscal prudence. We're also continuing, as Ernie mentioned, his mandate to us has continued to seek sources of funding from the federal and state government where available. So times are getting more challenging for that, but it's not stopping us from proposing, requesting, doing the best that we can to find avenues to make these projects more affordable for our customers. Pat and I are available for any questions.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you. Members, any questions?
A question.
John?
So it looks like the Board of Water is trending, in a pretty healthy financial position, right? And it will continue to do so with the rate hikes. My question is, the CIP seems to be not necessarily cash constrained, right? It's more interest rates or manpower or just the actual work to get it done, right? So now that we're kind of trending in a healthier financial position and we've exceeded 180-day of reserve, has the Board of Water looked into any third-party kind of analysis of our digital infrastructure? I don't know if it'll be reflected in the IT budget, but it's kind of flat. So I'm just wondering, have we looked into investing into our digital infrastructure, which would be our systems and cybersecurity, all that?
Yes, and I'll ask maybe Henderson to come forward. He's the head of our IT division, strong efforts in the area of cybersecurity and also preparing for some major digital infrastructure projects coming forward in partnership with the Water System Operations Division. But
Yeah, to your point, from an infrastructure perspective and a systems perspective, we're constantly in a operational mode of maintenance and enhancements. So one of the things we look at from the major system side is a typical 3 to 4 year max cycle of bringing us up on a current version of system software. So that's on our computer system side in the enterprise space, your typical accounting, HR, that kind of stuff, right? Then when you look at what we do for the communications side of the operation that we're responsible for, we have multiple methods of communications, both wired, wireless, as well as radio. We have also looked at satellite for backup, and in certain locations, we have deployed it. Should we lose everything else, right? We've adopted other initiatives in terms of leveraging cloud versus on-prem in certain situations where it's appropriate. We are also investigating AI and its applicability. With regards to cyber that you've asked about, we implemented our cyber program, I want to say it's about 7 years ago now, and are constantly building it out. So we do invest in cyber heavily. We have relationships with all the 3-letter agencies to be able to get what we need on the federal side when it comes to assistance, as well as the state. So from a digital perspective, we're pretty far along in terms of where we need to be. I think what Ernie alludes to as the next step for us is to maybe leverage more on the operational side, the water systems operational side. So we'll be working with them on some projects as they move forward.
Is that reflected in I guess the interesting part about software is it kind of gets cheaper the more efficient you go. So it's not like infrastructure where you're investing heavily into,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the software side, typically there's two pieces. One is if we looked at the
Cloud service side or the software as a service scenarios, that's a subscription-based model, right? So it's not an expenditure that necessarily grows over time. It mainly grows with utilization. On the other side, where we typically do our on-premise applications, and from an on-premise, just to be clear, we don't have anything here. We moved off-site here while ago, now that I think about it. Our primary processing locations are in
DRF, which is out by the airport,
which most of the major companies in town utilize as well. And then our backup is at UHITS.
So physically here, we don't have it,
But that's our on-premise operations, they consider it that way. With regards to those two operations and the support necessary for that, costs really comes in bunches, I guess is the way to look at it. We just went through a hardware upgrade at those sites to support some of these systems and refresh just in the last 2 years. So our budget, actually, if you look at year over year, has tended to grow a little bit. But
we try and also maintain that to make sure that we're not going farther than we need to be.
That's not like, you know, a huge jump in costs or, yeah, okay.
No,
Yeah, I was just interested because, you know, it seems like there should be meaningful investment in digital, but looks like we're already doing it, so that's awesome.
yeah, the biggest one is gonna be AI. Once we figure out how to safely leverage it,
Yeah,
we'll hopefully see some of that internally first, because that's kind of we guinea pig ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And help to set up the policies and guidelines for that before you put it out. So,
Yeah, kind of a little bit old school, so balancing risk versus innovation too.
yeah. Yeah, because you also see like the satellite imagery, that leak detection,
Yeah.
it just gets more and more every month. And I'm sure it paid for, I mean, it kind of pays for itself at this point, right, as far as.
It really has, yeah. And other technologies, you know, we're part of this group of different utilities across the country. It's a subscription service where we get exposed to emerging technologies that are maybe not mainstream yet, but are considering going mainstream. And that's been a fruitful endeavor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Members, any other questions? That's.
No, but question, I do appreciate the help and the effort that goes into building a budget of this complexity. So thank you very much for your work.
Yeah, big appreciation for your folks' offices and putting this together. And it's nice to see that there's a little bit more revenue that we can lean upon to catch up on, you know, some of the things that were really lean as costs were increasing. So that's useful.
Yeah.
I think, you know, one of the big measures of this is, again, just having us figure out what the costs that can be carried both in people and engineering costs as well as dollar costs in the CIP specifically to pipe replacement. Right, that's like we talked about this last time at the public meeting, but the crux between, you know, how many miles of pipe are replaced every year and balancing out everything else that you shared, whether it's R&D, whether it's the, you know, the radio stuff or these other pieces of the puzzles. It's like, I'd be really curious to see over time what those forecasts look like against this, the difficulty in what we were talking about with the cost of capital. Right, so ultimately at some point, right, being able to pay back that money over time is going to be, you know, interest rate driven. And so whether or not we can get to 1% of pipe replaced a year is really a looming question, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. That and ensuring that we have enough water capacity from our sources to keep up with all the anticipated needs of our community. But we'll keep that in mind. We are going through the updated water master plan and we'll seek the board's input in that. And that'll help set the roadmap, at least for the next, you know, 10 years for us.
Yeah, I think staff provided, at least those of us in the room, the last strategic plan as well. It's a small booklet, just as a refresher. I think it came out before Lance, you were on, Cal folks. But it's a useful little read. I mean, it's representative of, you know, huge amounts of staff time left to get there. And it's important to just understand the perspective of kind of where we were a handful of years ago to give us some guidance as to how we want to treat these next few years of uncertainty.
We also welcome the board's participation in that and through a permitted interaction group in the strategic plan development process.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Members online, any questions? Okay. If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay. Closing, if there's no other questions or testimony, I'm going to close the public hearing, and now we're in our regular meeting. We have 3 items on our action agenda today. Item number 1 is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held April 28th, 2025. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by John.
Second.
Second.
I'll take Brian's second.
You should.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any corrections or discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Chair, Vice Chair, Cheryl,
Aye.
Board Member Brian Ataya,
Aye.
Board Member Lance Wilhelm,
Aye.
Board Member Gina Vano,
Aye.
and Chair Nolly Anthony.
Aye,
Chair motion passes with 5 ayes.
thank you. Please note for the record. Moving on to item number 2, this is approval of the minutes of the budget workshop of May 5th, 2025. Any discussion? Hearing none. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Lance and seconded by John. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Jonathan Cheryl,
Aye.
Board Member Brian Ataya,
Aye.
Board Member Lance Wilhelm,
Aye.
Board Member Gina Vano,
Aye.
Chair Nolly Anthony.
Aye.
Chair motion passes with 5 ayes.
Thank you. Please note for the record. Moving on to item number 3, adoption of resolution number 999/2025, adopting the operating and capital improvement program budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 and appropriating funds therefore. Chair recognizes Raylan Nakabayashi and Patrick Chan. Aloha, welcome back.
You. So presented to the board is the resolution 999/2025, which will adopt the operating capital improvement program budget as presented in both the budget workshop and the public hearing today. This will appropriate 283.3 million from the operating fund for our operating budget expenditures, and a total of 283.3 million also on the capital improvement program budget side, as broken down here between the operating fund, state revolving loan fund, improvement fund, special expendable fund, extramural fund, and from the WIFIA fund. Attached is, this was what ran in the newspaper on May 16th, which was the notice of the public hearing. It's really long. And then this is the budget resolution. So the opening paragraphs appropriate the operating budget. We could scroll down, operating budget, and then this next paragraph start to appropriate in funding the capital improvement program budget broken down across those 6 funds, as also shown in the table. We could, yeah, if we scroll down a little bit here, sorry. So the first be it resolved that follows right after the appropriation of all of the dollars, just, oh, sorry, other way. Oh, sorry. It's hard not controlling, but it allows, this is the paragraph that I had screenshotted and put into the public hearing presentation. This is to allow us to utilize, encumber, and expend the capital improvement funds other than those appropriated in the operating fund through June 30th of 2027. And in closing, I think the resolution, we can scroll past this. Talks about working capital, though. There may be temporary deviations from maintaining that floor of 60 days. We are working to rebuild at the snapshot in time of June 30, 2024. It was healthy, 201 days as reported. But as we appropriate, expend, and encumber monies, we're still working to solidly rebuild that. So this paragraph has been in for a couple of budget cycles. And finally, it does close with the board, as appropriating all of this, recognize that there will maybe need to be bond sales, and we will come back for the board's authorization to issue those bonds to finance the budget as appropriated.
Ray can pause there too. I just want to point out to the board, not only bonds, but also maybe other alternative sources of funding for short terms like commercial paper. Those are things, we may start to seriously take a look at and leverage those tools. The idea is to have a diverse financial portfolio that we can tap to use to fund our projects.
That is it in the budget resolution, but thank you for your consideration and we're available for questions.
Members, any questions? Okay, so Ray, first is, I don't have to read this whole thing, do I? Okay, that's important. The second is, I did wanna, this includes the language about the requested 2-year runway, right, for these projects. I did wanna just talk it through one more time. I know at the last meeting, we had a pretty robust discussion about it. And I think the big, this is like the big challenge you have here, right, is like getting through all the permitting and actualizing these projects before you run out of time on the 1-year timeframe. And I think some of the concern by some of the board members, myself included, is that we don't have that hockey stick that we have seen in other 1-year iterations just be one longer stick on the second year. Understanding that we've seen permitting take long time on some of this stuff, and it's bound us to cost overruns, right? Where we've had to pay for these guys to hold the pipe or, wait around to set the project. Can we just talk that through a little bit more and explain kind of if you can explain the rationale between the 2-year, I guess, extension of what you're trying to do?
So we're programming our capital improvement program budget. Right now, we're putting in projects that we want to achieve in the next fiscal year. Those are going through design and intended to be bid in the upcoming fiscal year. When we put those bids out, though, when we start doing those solicitations, not only does design have to be complete, but we were building in time to delay issuance of notice to proceed. So we're forcing the bids to happen in April and May so that we can open the solicitations and award in June. That was causing us to put into the solicitation things like notice to proceed on this contract will be held for about 180 days, 200 days. We're making that longer and longer, knowing that we have to take the solicitation out. We have to award it in June, but we are not sure when we will get those permits. And a lot of ground disturbing work cannot proceed without some of these approvals. So what happens is that goes out in the solicitation, contractor bids, they put a price in, firm and fixed, on believing that they will be able to start within that 180 or 200 days. When that time comes and we still don't have the permits and the approvals to allow them to start that ground disturbing work, we are essentially exposed to the fact that now we owe them for delay, right? We told them that they would be able to start, they'd be able to mobilize, do everything within 180 days. We tell them, I'm sorry, you're going to have to hold. We would like you to hold your bid price, but we can't let you start. And that is where they can turn around and say they can't hold their price. This price was based on starting at this point in time, but we were unable to allow them to start. So then we open up the board a little bit to the exposure for delay claims. With this longer time period, we can bid or solicit and open those bids, award those contracts closer to when we have those permits in hand or have them in hand already. So that one, we don't have to put that kind of language in our solicitations that, notice to proceed will be held for 180 days or 200 days, right? We can talk about notice to proceed being issued more timely right after award, which we hope we will see more competition, better pricing when you're not asking people to forecast pricing and firm and fixed 200 days from now. When material cost escalations are very uncertain right now, the labor workforce is uncertain, but you're telling them bid on this today, and then don't start for 200 days though. So we're hoping to kind of close those gaps with this. We will not put out a solicitation unless we have those things and we can be ready to go on the construction side. We aren't going to slow down the way that we're working through our design permitting process to get these solicitations ready. So we do actually hope to that this allows construction solicitations to go out in other than just the fourth quarter. I know Pat's staff, my staff would be like so elated not to have 90% of the workload dropped on their desk in
Fourth quarter.
in the fourth quarter, right? So we would take them out as they're ready, but it gives us 24 months to do that. We hope for a lot of things, right? We'll see better pricing because we can issue notice to proceed more timely. We will see more competition because we're not trying to force everything into the fourth quarter and contractors have to pick and choose what can I bid on now? Because even putting in a bid takes time and effort on their side, right? But if we list them all in May and we want bids on everything in May, they may forego looking at some of our projects. So we're really hoping that this 24-hour or 24-month runway gives us that flexibility to do that rather than push something out in May just because I have to. Otherwise, we will lapse the money. We'll wait. Maybe it's July, maybe it's August, but I can push it out then and be more certain on when I can issue notice to proceed.
We are going to be very monitoring the length of the hockey stick though, to see if that effect happens in the fourth quarter of the second year.
Figuring it.
So we'll watch it, but we appreciate the additional time to do this. And actually we're going to start to go for the permits even earlier during the design phase.
And I might suggest too, some outreach to the construction community, noting the change in your approach could prove helpful as contractors. If they know this is how you're going to do it, then they'll think about, the prospective bidding work.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we'll be sure to communicate that to like the GCA.
Yeah.
We've already started to communicate it with the design community too. Some good suggestion.
And if I could also just kind of maybe make note for the board members, like, in your guys' conversations with the different agencies that have the power to issue these permits, it's important for us to help them to recognize that the staffing shortages that are right across the board, whether you're in a city or state agency, have real net effects towards the work we're trying to do and the dollars that it costs us when we can't get stuff permitted on time. I know that we've had a number of conversations on how to help us speed that up and still following the regulatory process, but it's like looking for real creative ways to do that because this is a deviation from all the ways in which we have done it before, acknowledging that if we don't, it's going to cost us a lot of money. It could cost us a lot of money in these delays as you laid it out. But I don't think this is the fix. I think this is the Band-Aid. And the fix has to do with how it is that we look at the regulatory powers to come to a balance that is, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, for those of you who work in government and work with government, but we have to figure out how to shorten the time on some of these permits that are required for ground disturbance. So just want to make sure that,
we
also keep in line with that as well.
Yeah, we definitely, that's a good suggestion, Chair. We do meet, there are two major permits that seem to give us the biggest challenges, both our state agencies. So what we've implemented for a while now is actually regular monthly meetings with them to go over the priority list. And I got to say that those agencies, like, we are also struggling with a lack of manpower. They have a large workload with not enough people to do that. But it's been, I think, going in a positive direction. And we're looking at different ways to maybe take on some delegated authority from one of those agencies to be able to issue make determinations ourselves and then report back to them maybe once a year what those determinations are that are more routine types of projects. So it's been a good collaborative effort that we will continue to do that.
Okay.
I won't mention those agencies, but I think everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
But they're doing the best they can, but we're trying to help them be successful and also make us successful.
Yep, agree. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve. Okay, John's moved it. Any second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by John and seconded by Lance. Any further discussion, corrections, or additions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Bradley Panthero.
Aye.
Board Member Brian Taya.
Aye.
Member Lance Wallen.
Aye.
Board Member Gina Bono.
Aye.
And Chair Nolly Anthony.
Aye.
Chair motion passes with 5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. Please note for the record, congratulations. We will be watching the hockey stick very carefully. Yeah, thank you folks for all the hard work. Patrick, you too. Thank you, all you guys, staff. Really appreciate the lift. Okay, we will be moving on to items for information. Item number 1 is the update on the Board of Water Supplies response to potential impacts of the Red Hill field contamination. Chair recognizes Joyce Lynn. Hello, Joyce.
Thank you, Chair and board members. I am Joyce with the Manager and Chief Engineer's Office. This is your May 2025 Red Hill update. So just some events this past month. It was a little quiet. We just attended the Navy Open House regarding their well reactivation for IAEA Halava Shaft. During the meeting, it was confirmed that they will be treating IAEA Halava Shaft for PAH, that's polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. There's also going to be treatment for PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, and total petroleum hydrocarbon or TPH. In terms of cleaning and closure of the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility, it is still ongoing. As of May 9th, 1,300 gallons of residual fuel has been removed, and a total of 178 gallons of sludge from the bottom of the fuel tanks were removed. They are moving forward with pipeline removal currently in the planning stage still, so they're getting the plans reviewed by the regulators, DOH and EPA. And I just wanted to provide a quick update on our monitoring well network, the Board of Water Supplies monitoring well network. Sorry, it's a little difficult to see, but they're broken down into different phases with the different colored circles. So we have currently 3 monitoring wells in construction. That is Site H, Site A, and Site D. We have 3 monitoring wells in procurement. That's Site D. We have actually going to be 2 monitoring wells at Site D. So D2 is in the procurement process. We also have Site S and Site Y at the Mauna Lua Golf Course. And lastly, we have a handful of monitoring wells in design as well. So these design wells are currently at the Halava Shaft Xeriscape Garden. We also have one in the upper right corner called Site L4. That's at a Board of Water Supply reservoir facility. And we also have a Site W in the south of the map that is at the Alapu'umalu Park. Also, progress regarding the exploratory well. These are exploratory wells that we will be testing, drilling and then testing to see if the water quality is there, as well as if we have enough water quantity. If it is tested that it's feasible, we will proceed into converting these exploratory wells into production wells for drinking water. Upcoming events that we are looking forward to is our monthly updates with the UH researchers on their Red Hill Tracer study. There is also a community representative initiative meeting this Thursday at the Olelo studio in Mapunapuna. This concludes my update for the month. I'm available for any question.
Bruce, any questions?
I'm kind of just curious more than anything else with it. The removal of pipeline, is the plan to remove every stick of pipe from the fuel site all the way down to Pearl Harbor? Is that what that fuel line removal is?
Yeah,
Yes,
So they're not abandoning any of that in place?
yeah, I think a lot of that is the original 1940s pipe. So they're gonna remove three pipelines that run from the fuel tanks all the way down to Pearl Harbor. They'll leave some of it because they still have an operating fuel facility near Adit One. They have to use the pump room there. So, but most of the 3 miles, I think a total of almost 10 miles of pipeline between three different sizes will be removed from the, runs in the tunnel.
Oh, it runs inside the tunnel?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotcha.
So basically, if you've been in there, it's in the lower access tunnel, sitting on metal hangers on one side of the tunnel.
Very. Not like it's in a trench somewhere.
I don't know if some of it may be underground, but most of it will be above ground.
Above ground, and the tunnels will remain, they're just moving the
The
pipeline.
pipeline that connects the tanks to the Pearl Harbor where the fuel comes in. So as they remove the pipelines, they'll have to do it carefully because there may be some residual fuel still in the pipeline. They also have to worry about fire risk as they do this hot work to remove it. Yeah.
I have a question about the, if you can go back to the map. So this is all the monitoring wells, yeah, like. Ernie and Joyce, what's the idea behind the sites Y, S, and W? The ones that are south of so they're down ridge towards Honolulu, yeah? Or in Honolulu, I guess, to the south, is it? What's the purpose of those?
Well, we really don't know if, and because we also have a DH-43 that detected petroleum back in 2022, I think it was, DH-43, drill hole 43. If some of the fuel could be flowing actually toward the east into Mauna Valley. And that's what those monitor wells are, to see if there's a potential flow into the valley. I think the Navy's also trying to drill some near the golf course too. It's not shown in this map. But the concern is that we don't really know exactly where the fuel is flowing. We think there's a predominant flow to the northwest toward Halawa Valley and Halawa and Aiea. But we want to make sure that if there's any flow into Mauna Valley, because to the south, we have our Mauna wells also.
Okay.
Jason, want to add anything to this?
And this is the extent of all the wells that we have in some version of design or construction.
in terms of being able to proceed, correct, this is what we have so far. We are actively looking for additional sites, but they're not in any sort of design phase just yet.
Okay.
So when the Navy says they put in 45 or 46 monitor wells, actually, I think the majority of them actually within the boundaries of that orange line, which delineates the Navy property of Red Hill.
So there's a robust discussion going on about, and it's been going on for a couple of years now, about what the monitoring well network needs to look like in mass to understand the nature of the movement of water, potential contaminants in the water, mostly, right, please correct me if I'm wrong, but to protect all of the water sites that are up in the kind of the northwestern quadrant of the picture there, right? So assuming that the water flow is moving somewhere to the northwest, we want to understand the nature of the contaminants embedded in the water going that way.
Yeah, in the aquifer.
Yeah.
And the lack of adequate monitor wells, it really kind of a guessing game right now.
Can you go to the next slide? What are these two sites? These are just storage.
These are existing reservoir sites
Okay.
that the Board of Water Supply will
Okay.
operate.
So you guys are just gonna test to see if you can,
Yes, so we have projects in place with contractors to drill one exploratory well at each site. And then after the drilling completes, we will undergo pumping tests to make sure that the water quality is adequate. And they're also just checking to see how much water we can actually produce from these exploratory wells. If it is suitable for development into a production well, then we will proceed.
How do you arrive at the location? Like what drives the decision to test here versus someplace else?
The idea was, this is shortly after we shut down the 3 wells, that we wanted to look at sites to sort of kind of look at replacing some of that capacity we lost because we shut it down. But we looked at, I said, basically, start with our property that we own.
Because you already own it.
We already own the property. If there's space for a well to be installed on the property, like at these tank sites, that's the easiest. And we don't have any land acquisition issues to deal with. That could even lengthen the process. So thanks to Erwin, the deputy manager, Erwin Kawata and Joyce, or especially Erwin found a lot of different sites. I think six sites initially. And of the 6 sites, two were viable. Yeah. For whatever constraints, like I think Joyce found that the drainage system to that site would be inadequate to handle the pumping test water. Or even if a permanent pump station was put there, the initial discharge could overwhelm the drainage system. So those are some of the factors. But now, we are looking elsewhere too. And we are also going to tank sites at higher elevations, all the way up to the Forest Reserve. Yeah.
do you have like a thought on like a best case, if this pans out, like what is the MGD capacity of something like this?
It's hard to tell. Yeah.
Sorry.
We think that, these holes will be quite productive, usually in the wells in this area. Are quite productive. It's in the Pearl Harbor aquifer. But until you actually drill it and test it, you don't know for sure. And also, will we encounter any kind of contamination that we have to now deal with? And that's why we're kind of pushing on new source development. The timeline that it used to, my kind of rule of thumb from past experiences, someplace between the point that you pick the spot on the ground to drill a hole for the exploratory well to the time you have a production well in operation producing water to our system, 5 to 7 years. But given some of the permitting challenges right now, I think that timeline is going to be probably closer to 10 years on an average. And that's why it's something that's so difficult to do, that we need to have a longer lead time. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of redirected with the support of the board, where we put our efforts in our CIP to look at source development. Going back to the 1% replacement is very important for the long term. But for the short term, finding new water sources to meet the impacts of Red Hill, but also to address the needs of our community as a whole for affordable housing and other things, I think we need to push forward. But and because the timeline is now looking like it's going to be even longer to develop a new well, just going through the process.
In agreement. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I think we have one. Thank you, Joyce. I think we have one piece of testimony today. Kawhi Patton, do you want to say something?
I wanted to, get clarification on what she said about the wells before.
Yeah, come up to the podium.
Exploratory wells is fine, but nobody even addressed the contamination of the water of the original wells. That's what I hear for. I'm talking about, no, I can't really talk to Mr. Lau because
Okay,
I only talked to Mr. Lau. But I came before, and the product that I offer can do that without digging holes. This go back 20 years when the product first came out. Us guys, we get a hold of that because we ship the most fuel in the world today. Our company, $1 trillion company, we're not no beanie weenie. But we get to do with fuel, so everybody down on fuel nowadays. So kind of like dropped back and I was listening and I was looking all over for a way to come and explain. I came here before, but guys just show us on the side. But I still holding the knowledge up here. Mine was never written because it was explained by the guy who originated, who will create this thing long time ago. But this product, you just drop on it. And what the thing do is neutralize. You ever heard that word? Neutralize the fuel. The thing don't try to take out the fuel. That's why I know everybody on the wrong trail. Why? Because they're trying to remove the fuel. That's not the trick. The thing is to neutralize the fuel wherever the thing stay. In the ground, in the water, up in the air. It don't matter. But see, the technology was created long time ago when you guys was all in high school trying to get there. But this was created a long time ago. And how we got to this because the people who created came to our company. Why? We had the money. So what we did was in the very beginning, we patented this product. And we forgot about it until radio came about. So I've been coming back. I've been coming to the military. Why? They're the biggest fuel mover in the world. My cousin is a 4-star general too. But we never got to talk to him. We keep talking to Lloyd Austin. They don't bother over here like the people over here, different. They're all taking everything, but over here is where it begins, right here.
okay, so
So now I say, I'm looking to you people and I'm giving you the answer. Now, give me somebody I can talk to, so I can just go and Mr. Lau, you do this. That's about, find out. I've been coming for the last 3-4 years, right? You know, I come, I talk, but I just move on because why? I got information yet, but we're backed by people too now. We got money too. But I want you folks in Hawaii to accept this for the people of Hawaii, not personal, but you take our water without that, we ain't going nowhere else.
Okay.
So I'm telling you, give us some number or office or someplace to go to so we can talk to somebody. But not to improve them, it's hard.
okay, well, look, we'll have staff follow up with you if you want to leave a number as well, and we'll make sure that we follow up. Yeah,
Just to talk story,
Thank you.
I can tell you this, you adopt this one thing, Hawaii. We're gonna be in the cutting edge, because our water, without that, you can build everything over here, but without that, everybody fighting over the water, Maui, Big Island. You know, in the very beginning, our family, we supply milk, we just give. We come from the middle of the Big Island, Kau, the biggest district. And my great-great-grandpa was supplied Kikamehameha and all the food for all the warriors. That's our family was there from the very beginning. But it's just doing out of love for Hawaii. From here, come from the heart, not about money. It's about for the people. And that's how I see things, for the people, not about money. I can get money, but I want Hawaii and you folks, especially the bottled water supply. Come on board. You're talking to the military, this, they cannot solve them. They're talking, how you can strain oil? How, just think, how you can filter oil?
You're preaching to the choir over here.
Wow.
We've been on that journey for a few years.
No, you cannot filter that.
You.
Stick to everything, the thing tough. The thing float on water because there, water is heavier than the oil.
Yeah.
Now to take it out, it's not hard knowledge.
Yeah.
The folks need this knowledge, I'm telling you.
So Ernie has
My phone.
this phone number, and he will give it to you, and then we will follow up.
Don't phone that. I won't start. I just come and talk to
Okay.
you. I don't want
Okay.
to stress you.
Yeah, that's.
That's off. You just come and.
Thank you.
Deal. See you later.
Here's my phone number, and you know Kim.
I talk to you, cause I trust you. I told you that a long time
Yeah.
ago. I trust you. I saw you on TV. You to me somehow. You thought what you said. I believe you. I still believe you.
Here's my number. Let's get it together for me.
I give you this thing, you don't forget, you put them there, I'll tell you, you can see me though, because once we already used this long time ago. This was for our project, our $1 trillion oil project, trillions now. We're not in the small, really, we're one of the biggest guys in the world. Okay.
Okay.
We're top of the 1%, we're not the one, we're the top. Why? The trillions, of course, makes sense. Well, I told you, I've done already. Okay. Want Hawaii to have clean water and we're going to survive.
Thank you. Paano na po na ako? Okay.
Tell you, I old fashioned, I don't know nobody, I know you.
Okay,
You got to read on the, you told us, and I believe you.
thank you, Uncle.
I don't so I believe you.
Mahalo.
Okay? I will come, yeah.
Okay,
See me, I came, I look.
bring.
I don't know this thing, paperwork and all stuff, it's not me. You tell me something, I believe you, but when I tell you, you gotta believe me, but I will show you.
Okay.
So guys, we're not just saying it, but
Thank you.
you know us, but it's for the people of Hawaii, it's for all of us.
Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today.
You guys hear that from me, but you know, I've been here all my life. No, but when I see this, you gotta help. We hope everybody gotta help. Not about conserving, we gotta solve this, put this thing in, so we can get the results. No one digging new wells, you're wasting money. We dig wells, that's our job, for the oil. Been digging well for the last 30 years. We know about wells. Can tell you that.
Thank you, Uncle.
Thank
If you
you.
see my company, you won't know, yeah. You're just not anymore. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
I gotta go now because I'm
Okay.
embarrassed. Thank you.
Mark the time.
Yeah. Okay to see you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Uncle.
Thank you. Moving on to item for information number 2, status update of all groundwater levels at index stations. Chair recognizes Barry Osagawa. All right, I'm all set to plug you in for double duty over there. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members.
You.
Yeah, so for, what we got for April? 4 aquifer index stations in low groundwater. Supposed to be in Wailua in caution, Kaimaki and Punaluu in alert. Punaluu is just an alert. Kaimaki is still, was rising after the low point. The monthly production is about 136 million gallons per day. We're starting to get into summer. We'll start to see demand still rise, but we had some good rains for the month. 131% of normal, so it brought the 5-month moving average to 82%. National Weather Service is forecasting above normal precipitation through August, but that is at a lower level of rainfall for summer months, right? But other than that, pumpage is over the 5-month moving average, but lucky to have the good rains in April. And go through, so you can see the rainfall there, the data, as well as the pumpage being over the 5-month It's because we had a kind of a dry winter dry months in February, May, and March, so. We'll continue to monitor it, and that's my report.
Members, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Okay. Moving on to item for information number 3, water main repair report for April 2025. Chair recognizes Wayne Tello. Hello, Wayne.
Good afternoon, Board Chair, members, Wayne Taylor, Acting Program Administrator for Field Operation. My water main and leak detection report for the month of April. We had 23 main breaks. 7 were leaks, 15 were breaks, and 1 damage. Okay, next slide, leak detection. We had 33 points of interest, found 35 leaks. 3 main leaks, 22 were meter coupling leaks, 4 leaks on customer side, and 6 were service leaks. Any questions?
Members, any questions? I would not to put you on the spot today, but I would be curious about how this AI technology dovetails into all of this satellite imagery to help spot all the things. They're using it in medical technology, but what kind of defects? I'd be curious when it gets there to see what it does.
It's something I think
Well, comment on the question.
Wayne's not going to be going, unfortunately, to the ACE conference, the annual conference and exposition Denver for AWWA.
Mhm.
I'm sure Esther is going to be there to display, but we're sending an engineer from field operations, Tanya Wong. Also, Ryan Chong, who is head of our leak detection team. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting, see how the convergence of AI and satellite imagery, which can detect chlorinated water up to maybe a meter deep on the surface of the earth, how they're going to merge those two together to improve maybe the reliability. Right now, it's about a 50% reliability, which is really good for us. So we'll report back to the board later, maybe after the June conference.
So good result. That more leaks found than they had points of interest. So
Yeah.
I don't know how you find more leaks than you actually found stuff to look at, but that's pretty cool.
I guess they have a point of interest when they check that point.
And more than one leak.
More than 1 leak.
The point of interest is a pretty big circle. Within that.
That's more than 100%. Like you do that every month. That's pretty.
The biggest.
Yeah, 102%. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Wayne, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Wayne.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our time in regular session. We do have a number of items to discuss in the executive session. So do I have a motion to move us into executive?
So move.
Okay.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded by John and Lance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, we're in executive session. Now that we're in regular session, this is to inform the regular session meeting that we as a board voted on the pay of the chief engineer and unanimously resolved to pay him according to the policy that was at the board, at current. In executive session, we approved the minutes of the meeting held March 24th, 2025. We approved the minutes of executive session May 5th. We also agreed with the board's attorney on the 42-inch main break and the contractor damage into their recommendation, as well as we voted unanimously to to agree with the board's attorney on the proposed settlement for the Ron Wexler, trustee of the Ron Wexler Revocable Trust. Motion to adjourn?
I think he did.
He moved. Brian, you get second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.